Okay, writing can be real tricky for some people. It's a discipline that takes some time. And one of the things I like to do with those people who are struggling with this writing is I don't want to avoid it. I want to make you confident knowing how to do it. And this is a review what we'd shown before about the anatomy of a clear paragraph. Now, as you get better, you could add more style to it, but think of these three different, very different elements. After I go over this again, I want to show you an example of some of the writing we did last week and give you a good, strong example of what a paragraph should look like with evidence, argument, and with explanation. Okay, so you basically know that everything you write and say should have a point. We call that a main idea or a topic. But if we say everything is an argument, every paragraph we read is presenting some kind of an argument. If it didn't have to be said, if it wasn't going to challenge or add something new or new idea, then it wouldn't be worth reading. So the idea of having a point or an argument is where you start off with a topic sentence. And for that topic to have any gravity, to have any weight, you have to provide evidence. I mean, and this is something where I think a lot of people today aren't looking. They're either not looking for evidence at all or careless as to what evidence we accept in our argument. Evidence, facts that support our main idea. And when we present information, whether it's a lecture or a reading, we have lots of evidence, specific facts. One thing you want to make sure when you provide evidence, it should be really something that talks about a specific person, place, thing, idea, or event. So something that you could point to. So for example, if I said Bill had a good football game yesterday, that's an argument. So specific evidence could be a statistic about, well, how many tackles Bill had. It could be something about a touchdown that Bill scored, or something that we can measure or point to that would show that Bill had a good game. And then, of course, explanation is how does that statistic, like number of tackles or touchdowns, how does that support this idea that he had a good game? So that's the last part, the explanation. So when we learn how to do this effectively, it will make you a better thinker, a better reader, and of course, a more confident writer. So we want to make sure we are able to do that. So what I like to do right now, I'm going to shuffle ahead here, if I could. I want to show you an example of somebody's writing here. Now, I'll just go right to, I'm going to look at number one. Let's go over the prompt. How was the American frontier a war zone between two very different societies? Okay, so what I want you to do is I would like you to think about the fact that the claim is a one sentence answer. So let's take a look at this. I'll highlight this in red. Let's see if he does this. The American frontier was a war zone between two very different societies because Indians and Americans could not seem to just stop fighting. Okay, so fighting, of course, makes it a war zone. Nothing fancy right there. And I think he continues in saying, since Americans were draining the Native Americans of the land's natural resources and forcing them their land, things got tense. Now let's take a look at some specific information. In 1864, the spark between Native Americans and Americans had just begun. An 1864 massacre known as the Massacre of Sand Creek would leave Native Americans and Americans having gruesome battles and many conflicts. So you take a look at that, and there we have specific evidence. We have a date, and we have people. We're talking about Sand Creek. It's a specific event. Does that talk about fighting between Americans and Indians? Absolutely. I mean, American meaning the federal government. In one case, and as Pierce Indians would be stripped of their land when it was previously stated that it was their land. So there's another piece of information. Most attacks by Indians were sprouted from massacres at Sand Creek, where it was Americans who would be attacking the Indians. Then it was Indians who retaliated by massacring George Custer and the entire 7th Cavalry. So there you have another fact. So there's specific facts talking about battles between Indians and American federal forces and between American federal forces and Indians. And after more desperate efforts to resist, the Americans and Native Americans finally had stopped because of their lack of firepower and supplies. So that's pretty effective right there. Notice again the use of specific evidence and connects it. What is this evidence? Why is this a war zone? Well, when people were fighting like this indicates that there's a conflict of some nature. That's what you need to do. Now, what you guys are going to be working on is I'm going to have you go back and try number 2. How did American Indians resist the advancing frontier caused by American settlers and its military? First off, the one sentence answer, like if you were just going in for just a short answer. How did American Indians resist? So can you give me give me one sentence that kind of encapsulates how the American Indians resisted? Then you want to give me at least two specific facts. So what evidence do you have of American Indian resistance? I mean, like, there's so many things you could place in here. We could talk about everything from Little Bighorn to the ghost dance, and you could place that there. And then why does your evidence have weight? That's the third piece you need to do, is you need to be able to connect that evidence to the argument that you make. So then you would have a paragraph kind of like we saw up here that has, again, a one sentence answer. Actually, you could probably put that as the two sentences. Specific facts, like talking about Sand Creek and Little Bighorn, and an explanation as to why those things demonstrate this fact. Okay, folks? So let's go and try this out.